Hey everybody, this is Fred Rachani of TSC News here to review New Year's Revolution 2007, the final WWE New Year's Revolution pay-per-view, which took place January 7th, 2007 at the Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. This show was headlined by John Cena taking on Umaga, who was undefeated at the time, nicknamed the Samoan Bulldozer, and led by the badass Armando Estrada. Umaga had taken out everybody in his path, including the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Previously, Eddie Fatu, the man who played Umaga, was a part of the group known as 3 Minute Warning, which really didn't do much in WWE. His teammate actually was his cousin Rosie, who was the real-life brother of Roman Reigns. So yes, Umaga, also part of the Anoa'i Samoan dynasty in pro wrestling. And he took on John Cena here. John Cena had been reigning supreme since September 2006 when he recaptured the WWE Championship from Edge. And this was a good match. Really good match. Not as good as their match a few weeks later, which would take place at Royal Rumble 2007, which was a last man standing match. That was tremendous. Go back and watch it on the network. But this match was pretty good. John Cena won with the pinning combination. They did it to protect Umaga and set up the rematch at Royal Rumble, and John Cena ended up winning that. And while Umaga did lose a couple times after being undefeated, he did go on to represent Vince McMahon in the Battle of the Billionaires match, which drew tremendously well on pay-per-view. I believe the record still stands as the highest bought pay-per-view in WWE history. It was Vince McMahon's representative, Umaga, who was also the Intercontinental Champion at the time, taking on the ECW Champion at the time, Bobby Lashley, who was representing Donald Trump, and whoever lost had to get their head shaved. Unfortunately, Umaga lost, and Vince McMahon had to get his head shaved, much to the dismay of Mr. McMahon, and much to the delight and enjoyment of everybody watching worldwide. John Cena ended up going on to WrestleMania, having a great feud with Shawn Michaels, a great series of matches, and reigned supreme all the way up until October 2007. He had been champion by that point for over a year and suffered an injury. I believe it was a torn pec, and shockingly had to vacate the title, but later came back just 3 months later to win the 2008 Royal Rumble and ended up feuding with Randy Orton and all that fun stuff. But John Cena versus Umaga was a good match, really good match, and John Cena ended up getting the win. Rest in peace, Umaga, who unfortunately had some demons and died a couple years later. We had Carlito take on Chris Masters. Both guys were 2 of the final 3 in the WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match from last year's New Year's Revolution. This year they were rivals, and Chris Masters got the win. At the time, Carlito had a love affair with Torrie Wilson and later had a feud with Ric Flair. Each thing was pretty forgettable. Carlito was sputtering out of control, and he really didn't regain any kind of momentum or relevance until he started teaming up with his brother Primo a few years later. And after that, they gave Primo and Carlos a push and then stopped pushing him. Later released Carlito Colon. And these days, he's just kind of doing his thing on the indies while Primo is one half of Los Matadores. Chris Masters, on the other hand, he won this match, but didn't really do much after this. He was a guy that was pegged to be a big star. He failed a couple drug tests after the WWE wellness policy was really getting into effect. And if you're a guy that has a lot of money and can beat these drug tests, then you're good. If you're not, well, you're gonna fail. And Chris Masters failed a couple of them for PEDs and lost a lot of weight. Still looked great. But I think after he got suspended a couple times, they just kind of stopped really doing stuff with him, released him eventually. He went on the indies, did his thing, came back, became a pretty damn good worker. But by the time he came back to WWE, I think they just slotted him into that lower card spot, which is very unfortunate because he's a really, really talented guy. We had Rated RKO, Edge and Randy Orton, who had formed a unholy alliance at the time, trying to take out DX. They were the current WWE World Tag Team Champions. They took on D-Generation X, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. Really good match. Good feud while it lasted, but unfortunately Triple H tore his quad in the match. And just to give you an idea of how tough Triple H is, although I don't know if this is the smartest thing to do, he continued the match, and at the end, the match ended in a no contest, and DX stood tall. This feud was fun while it lasted. Didn't exactly do much for the younger Edge and Randy Orton, but hey, what can you do? It led to Shawn Michaels going out on his own for a little while and having tremendous matches with John Cena, which I strongly recommend you guys check out on the WWE Network, especially WrestleMania 23. And if it's on the network, their match in 2007 in London, the match before Backlash, the Raw, before Backlash 2007. Classic matches. You guys got to watch them. We had Mickie James retain the Divas title. The women's title. I don't even think the Divas title was around at the time. Mickie James defeated Victoria, a.k.a. Tara, a.k.a. Lisa Marie Varon. Way too short to mean anything. And if you think WWE isn't doing much with the Divas nowadays, back then, yeah, not much of a priority. We had Kenny Dykstra of the Spirit Squad, formerly of the Spirit Squad, defeat Ric Flair. Unfortunately for Kenny, who looked to be a promising future superstar, he just kind of was like Chris Masters. Didn't fail any drug tests, but should have been a big star, or at least a decent-sized star. And instead just kind of flustered, floundered, and was eventually released. And he never really got back to WWE. I don't think he ever did anything in TNA or ROH or internationally. And these days, he has an anti-bullying cause and has written books. So seems to be doing well, but unfortunate he didn't get to do much more in his wrestling career. Time won a tag team turmoil match to secure a future tag title shot. Now get this tag team list, okay? Here's the tag team list. The Highlanders, who are very forgettable, and if you don't know who they are, Google them. They're like cavemen. They're like whatever the character that Mel Gibson had in Braveheart. They're like his comedic drunken brothers or something. I mean, they were just comedy guys. We had the world's greatest tag team, Charlie Haas and Sean Benjamin, who were a great team. Jim Duggan and Super Crazy. And believe it or not, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the Jim Duggan, was a regular active member of the Raw roster at the time. This was a Raw branded pay-per-view, by the way, when they still were doing branded pay-per-views. They ceased doing single branded pay-per-views later in 2007 when they realized, hey, maybe we should put all our stars on pay-per-view when we're charging $50. What a novel concept. And the other team featured in here was Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch, featuring the late Lance Cade, who, like Umaga, unfortunately succumbed to his demons and passed away at a very young age. So God rest their souls. And we had Jeff Hardy defeat Johnny Nitro to retain the IC title inside of a steel cage. These two men had a lot of really good and some great matches in 2006 and 2007. So no complaints there. So overall, a pretty good pay-per-view. I don't know if it's as good as New Year's Revolution 2006, because New Year's Revolution 2006 ended with Edge cashing in the Money in the Bank for the very first time to win the WWE title for the very first time, and it's hard to top that, but not a bad pay-per-view if you want to watch something on New Year's time. At the time I'm recording this, it's New Year's Eve 2015. Maybe you want to check it out. Maybe you don't. Maybe you were in attendance at the time for this pay-per-view. Maybe you ordered it like me back in the day. Maybe you bought it on DVD. Maybe you're interested in watching it on the network. I want to hear from you. Let me know. Leave a comment below. Tweet us. Facebook us. Do what you got to do. If you enjoyed this review, please click the like button. Please share this with all your friends. And please don't forget to subscribe to TSC News on YouTube, SoundCloud.com/TSC News, and iTunes for more WWE updates. Happy New Year, everybody.